Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay. How's it going, my friend, and welcome. If you're a new listener, hello, welcome. And if you're a returning listener, thank you so much. You're awesome. I just want to say thank you. And let's get into it. So, this week I want to actually cover a little bit about my fitness journey. Now, as far as my fitness journey is concerned, there isn't anything like that stands out that's like crazy or anything like that. Instead, I just really want to just talk about my 2 cents and where I'm at currently at this stage of my life. And so for me, when it comes to like fitness, I always believed and knew that exercising was very important to me. Even far back when I was in high school, even back to middle school, I was on a soccer team for a couple seasons, and then I was on the lacrosse team. And then in high school, I was pretty much involved in track and cross country. And then, of course, it wasn't until when I was pretty much around entering college when I started developing a passion for cycling. When I started to learn how to ride a bike and go out and explore. And, ever since I got a bike and learned, and when I started going out and riding with my brother, my big brother, ever since then, it's just been like, oh man, I'm a cyclist for life. And, and I still feel that way. I still firmly believe that I'm a cyclist this whole lifetime. And because I think for me, speaking on the cycling piece, it's been my source of meditation, my source of being able to release stress, to be able to process a lot of things, process emotions, process a lot of thoughts, things that have been weighing on my mind. And what I would often do, I would just take, on my commutes, I'd go to places in different parts of DC where it's very scenic. Sometimes I'd be at Haynes Point. Other parts I would be at the Watergate Steps by the Lincoln Memorial. Shout outs if you've ever been there. They're awesome, beautiful spots. Like there are a lot of honestly beautiful spots here in DC. It's a blessing. It's a beautiful thing, and it's like those little treasures that I appreciate being here, living in the nation's capital. And aside from all of that, I've had various phases when I've tried to do some exercises at the gym. And recently, I've been mostly focusing on just cardio. That's been like pretty much most of my life. And I've always felt like I needed to incorporate some like muscle resistance, or what they call, I think this strength resistance, excuse me, and doing some strength resistance training to help build on the cardio, so it's just not cardio all the time, which is what I was pretty much getting and what I have been getting. But even then, that by itself has helped me personally tremendously. And I attribute being physically active for I attribute that to having a good healthy metabolism. Like I can eat a whole lot, and I can run into like the problem of like, man, if I don't eat enough, I can actually lose weight. It's almost like, man, I don't want to lose weight. Whereas like I'm sure for many people, perhaps you, where it's like, man, I need to lose some weight, and it's hard. Like I'm on the opposite side, and this isn't to complain. If anything, is more to appreciate. I do understand though everybody's physical makeup, even down to genetics and things like that. Everybody's different and unique. So when I say all this is of course speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for anybody else or for anyone or everyone. I can only speak for myself, especially in this area here. And so I've been thinking about for a while of like, okay, what am I gonna do aside from riding my bike? Because nowadays, I don't just commute, I actually ride my bike for work. So I get a good workout, and I'm working with tools and stuff, handling vegetation, and it can be pretty physically demanding. But that aside, after I come back from work, I'm always trying to go to the gym and do something additional, not just rely solely on that my job for the my daily fitness, or relying on my job for my daily dose of fitness. Uh, I really want to have something more holistic. And so that's why I wanted to go to the gym and, like I said, not just focusing on cardio, but actually doing other key areas as well. So for me, when it comes to fitness, there are three key areas that I think are important, that I think anybody should strive towards, and or at least should incorporate in their fitness routine. And those three areas are strength, flexibility, and mobility. Strength, flexibility, and mobility. And so after a while, I've been thinking about it, but never really putting the time to like put together a simple, basic fitness routine. Because I don't know a whole lot, and I'm just doing the best I know how here, much like everybody else. I was looking through my emails and I came across this one program from this one content creator I follow on YouTube. Uh, when they actually post a lot of good stuff that I appreciate. It's pretty cool and it's holistic. So I made a decision, especially because there was a promo for this particular course that this creator was promoting and selling, that was pretty much targeting the strength, mobility, and flexibility. And so this promo discount, I wanted to take advantage, and with that, I made a decision and commitment to myself to give this a shot and do it. Because I was overthinking and just putting it off. You ever find yourself, or even do you find yourself right now thinking about something that you've been procrastinating, but it's been on your mind, and it kind of ebbs and flows. It comes in and out as you're focusing on a cajillion ever other things in your life. You find yourself in that situation? Well, if you do, something I want to share with you that I think is important is that just start. I think one of the things that for me, especially with this fitness routine, I got myself thinking about wanting to, like, I need to make sure I have it perfect first, whatever the hell that means. I need to make sure I have it perfect, and then I can start implementing and start doing it. And so having that kind of thinking on top of that, not creating enough, not creating or setting aside time to work on it also, it's just like a recipe of just procrastinating and delaying it again and again and again and again. And it's no wonder that it's been weeks, maybe I think it was been months now since I've always been talking about this and I haven't done much. But I'm saying this not to be critical, because I already deal with that inner critic within myself. But instead, I'm approaching this with a sense of compassion, with a sense of understanding myself. For me, I don't know if you can relate, but it's just like there's no reason to be so freaking hard on myself. Like life it's a process, it's a journey to work through things. It's not about getting getting stuff right. Like who the hell thinks that? And if they do, good luck, buddy. Let me know how that works out for you. I know in my experience it doesn't help at all. So I just figured when that course coming up and just been thinking about it for so long, I was like, you know what? I had to like kick myself into gear a little bit. And by that I mean exercising some discipline and true concern, and say, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take a chance with this. Because if not now, when? If not now, then never. And so if you have anything that you have in mind that you're thinking about that you've been putting off, just start now. Just put it into existence. Put something out there right now. And then as you're moving along, add those refinements. It's not like when you start doing something, then it's like it's set in stone and you're fate to just stay there at that level. Oh, you won't improve from here. You're fated. Oh. No, like come on. Like I'm sure there's some things in your life that you kind of sucked at the beginning, but then through practice and repetition, you got better at it. For me, it's like riding a bike. It's just that simple. And so, you know, get, having time, in this episode to just remind you, just get started. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just focus on the refinements. Even for me, I remember looking at when I was had started working at my when I was working part time for a period of my life as a part time house cleaner, and looking at evaluating when I started versus where I was then now. At least at that time when I was regrouping, I could definitely see how much of a difference, how much progress I've made, how much refinement that I did naturally, you know, and that to me is like is very indicative of in how much how can I say this? Like we all have this capacity of ingenuity for creativity to be able to use that to be able to refine what it is that we're doing to make it much more smoother and better. There's this need to want to do better within ourselves. It's like a natural thing that I believe that happens given enough time and repetition, of course. And so I just wanted to mention that little tidbit there for you, just as a little reminder for you. And so for me, I got this course and I purchased it, and then I started looking at I set a date for myself when I was going to start. And then before then, I was reviewing some of the stuff because it's like a week by week program. And so I was focusing on looking at the first week. Okay, what am I going to be working with here? And just start kind of studying a little bit before I actually get started. So at least I can have some smoothness into the workout routine and pretty much, save a lot of the time where I would have been like, oh, okay, let me see what these patterns, what these movements, what these exercises are, getting to know them before, which would take up time and then start doing them kind of a thing. And then when I was recently, I was doing uh, on one particular day, I was doing the stretching portion of the routine, and it was an awesome follow along stretching routine. And after I had finished doing it, towards the end of it, I just felt really good about the whole program, and that intuitively to me says that yeah, this is spot on. This is exactly what I need right now at this place at this time. And and it's one of those things that I pride myself, whether it's like investing in some kind of course or if I purchase something, online, if there's like if I'm looking and deciding, okay, discerning, okay, what is it that I need for myself? What are some material needs that I need to that I require to help make my day smoother and easier? And I've had some couple stuff that I've purchased that I'm just like, man, I'm so glad I bought it. Like it's like a feeling that's like so fulfilling. It feels so good. Like I'm glad I bought this because it's helping so much. It's getting so much value out of it. You know, and intuitively we all know this. That's why I believe it's important to use it as a gauge, as a barometer to kind of get a sense of what is it that whatever it is that you're doing and you plan to do, to lean in with that and to sense that, to be aware. Like, how does this feel? Or even if you don't have a sense of it, even just kind of imagining for a moment and playing around with the idea, like how would it feel like if it's a program or if it's something that you're thinking about, imagine how it would feel down the line, a couple weeks or a couple months, and just imagining, playing around with it, and just notice what comes up. You know, any sense of fulfillment, any feeling of lightness to any degree, I think are pretty good indicators as to, whether or not whatever it is you've been thinking about, whatever it is that you haven't decided on yet, to help actually make that decision. Like, oh, okay, this actually feels like there's something here intuitively, and I'm gonna go ahead and explore it. And even on that, it's important that we get into this flow of making a decision and following through. There's this. We all have a flow as a soul. We have this flow that goes like this: feel, think, act. Feel is like our intuitive sensing. What are we picking up? What are we kind of downloading, perhaps from the universe, from our spirit guides in terms of inspirations? What's coming through? And then the thinking part is just organizing what am I picking up in my mental awareness. And then once I organize it and I get like a picture, I get some sense of feeling and understanding or knowing, then it's the act part where I begin to follow through on that. That's where I'm following through on an inspiration. And so for me, that's been a huge thing for me to, and honestly, one of my highlights for this month is just following through on this, deciding on this fitness program with this knowing that, like, hey, I'm gonna do this because it's like, if I can't get myself to make a structure that's simple and easy, then you know what? Let me utilize another a structure that somebody else made, and and by being involved and practicing daily, I trust that later down the line, I may come up with some of my own personal custom, customizable fitness routines, utilizing the movements, the patterns, the exercises that I've learned in this particular program. Like, that's kind of been like my thought process with this. And so I invite you to, think about that, and not necessarily again to like applying it to just like a fitness routine, although if it is, please utilize this, kind of see it this way, because that's how I see it. And I think that's a very sound way of kind of going about it. Like I said, it's life is meant to be a process of just refining, to just give yourself the opportunity to start now, and this knowing that the start will be messy, it won't be ideal, but that's not going to be the end point. That's just the start. Afterwards is that opportunity to refine, to improve, and you have that capability within yourself. It's like, I mean, you could say we're hardwired for just to make things smoother for us, because we're like, I guess it's human nature to want to like go on autopilot or try to streamline, automate things. But I think spiritually is that as a soul, we want things to be smooth, and rather than just going on autopilot, rather in the smooth and flow of things, it's actually, I'm having an awareness. I'm being conscientious. I'm being conscious of what I'm doing. I'm not being passive. I'm actually being proactive. And I think that's a very important key thing when it comes to doing routines in general. The game of routines, the rhythms and routines in the game of life that we all have to abide by, that we all have to play, right? You can't fight that. I mean, if you try to fight that, sure, go ahead and see how that works out for you, buddy. It's not going to spell out good news, or it's not going to mean anything good, honestly. You know what I mean? But, like, just thinking about that, I'm sure you probably think, oh, that's ridiculous. Why would I fight the routines? But just being masterful in the routines, being conscientious. But then I'll also add being able to have fun and enjoy what it is I'm doing. Having fun and enjoying what you're doing now, and whatever it is that you're involved in. If it's a project, or if it's a hobby, whatever the case may be. And that's why it adds to the fulfillment of this particular workout, because I've been enjoying it so far, enjoying the journey, and not fixated on, I want to be here, there, I want to be this, I want to look like that, blah, 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 blah. It's great to have the goals, to have some place to go towards, to have a picture perhaps in your mind. Maybe you do vision boards or something, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like not to get caught up in the destination, not to get caught up like at that point that will be nothing more than just a milestone at some point. Because whatever it is you're striving towards, you're committing to, you'll reach it. It'll be a milestone, and then of course you'll then from there you can chart your own trajectory where you want to go next. And again, this applies to any area of life, in my opinion. So to enjoy that process, just for me, it's been feeling so good. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready to do that. My next part, the next day exercises, later on today, maybe after actually after this podcast, after I'm done recording this particular episode. Because I think it's so important, because and I think with all the stuff, when it comes to where you want to be in life, right? Say for an example, for simplicity's sake, fitness journey. You know, for me, I want to be in a better place where I want to be. I want to improve my mobility, my flexibility, and my strength. And all things considered, I'm not doing bad in these areas. If I had to give myself some feedback, or if I had to evaluate myself. But nevertheless, I actually want to improve in those areas. And one of my big reasons why is because my body's aging, and I don't want to go down the path that a lot of people, whether it's most people or many people, experience when they're getting older, where they talk about just their experience of just dealing with health problems. Now I know things will happen. Like I know I've gone through a lot of health stuff, and things happen, and it's not. I know it's foolish to try to like act like as if nothing's gonna happen health wise. Like I know I'm gonna deal with some other health stuff later down the line. That's just have to come to terms with that. But at the same time, I don't need to be pessimistic about it. This is again my thought process here. But just recognizing health stuff may come up, but at least doing the stuff right now, working on this now, and having a good solid practice that's fun, that's enjoyable, then it's like down the line, future me will say, Alvin, thank you so much, man. My guy, thank you. I really appreciate that. Because what we do now, our habits, what we do now in our younger years, will pay dividends later on as we age. And of course, the maintenance piece will always continue. And in fact, we'll have to refine as we get older. I mean, I'm slowly learning that myself. And I just want to go a different trajectory. I don't want to be in the same fate as everybody, as many, I want to say everybody, as like many others who are dealing with the problems that I totally believe that could have been prevented. But many don't know, don't understand. They're only going with what they know, with the best that they know how. And this isn't a shame. It's just everybody has different levels of awareness and knowledge. And for me, I've definitely have learned a lot. And so I want to put my damn knowledge to use, to practice. That's really it is for me and where I'm at this place. And if you're listening to this and you haven't been thinking much about it, now you have no excuse. If it's related to fitness specifically. Just start now so that as you age, it doesn't have to be a painful, a depressing, pessimistic thing. I'm always inspired when I see somebody in their later years doing awesome, dynamic, physically dynamic things. Like to see that. I mean, of course, it catches a lot of people's attentions, understandably so, because people's concepts about aging is like very generally negative and bad, and it's like very limiting. But when I see somebody in their later years doing things, and I'm like, wow, seeing things that other people do are doing better than I am at, and I'm young, again, and this is from the perspective of somebody perceiving this as the younger person. To me, I see that as inspiration rather than comparing myself for this and that. I'm like, no, I see you as an inspiration. You know, um, I remember I was seeing an actor, an action star. I remember I was watching this one clip of this one actor that I admire. Is pretty cool. I enjoyed some of his roles, the movies he's played in. Jean Claude Van Damme. I remember I saw one video of him. He was like, I mean, he's probably like in its, I don't know, like 60s, somewhere around there, give or take. Again, I don't look up information on celebrities and how old they are, but I mean, you could tell, right? Just like got some age on him. But he was like doing some kicks in his one video. He was like he looks like still nimble from when he was younger. Um, like back when like in the movies when he was like filming, like I remember some of the movies he was like in his 30s. And I'm sure he's not like still the same nimble as he was before, like when he was younger. But nevertheless, to see that amount of like flexibility when he was like demonstrating some kicks and stuff, how high he was kicking given the age where he's at, and just seeing where his physical body, that's impressive. And honestly, to me, again, that's just I see that as inspiration, if anything. And so anybody, and if anybody, so if somebody has able to achieve something, it's the way I see it. I can do it too. If you observe something in someone that you are inspired, you appreciate, you admire, then you can do it too. You can do it. The question is, do you believe you can? And if not, why? Why are you accepting limitation? And like the mind-body connection is so powerful. Like whatever we think, whatever our concepts are. I mean, I've heard there were some studies long ago. Like I don't know all the details, but I remember watching a video and learning about like there were some studies that your mindset can also contribute to accelerated aging, or I guess the opposite would be de-aging, or something like that. Like your mindset pretty much can affect how your body responds and how it develops. as you're moving through the years. Like that can contribute greatly. To me, that makes sense a whole lot. Makes sense to me, my friend. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. So, like I said, I think mindset is such a I think I guess leading to this, like mindset is such an important thing to because we act or we don't act because of our own concepts and ideas in our mindset. And so, with this podcast, I want to be able to expand and open up people's mindsets about anything. Just look at how you show up anywhere in life. If you can expand that and have a higher perspective, that's more power to you. And so, whatever it is that you have your concepts about fitness, I hope that perhaps I might have encouraged you to um, to look within, to rethink differently, to rethink more higher, and just just I don't know, just to rethink it, because it's not. It's always important to check ourselves, like, okay, what do what are my concepts about this that's making me do this or that? Because it's very important to be aware of it. That right there is the key to be able to unlock our best life, is to examine those things, examining the ways that we hold ourselves back. From a big picture spiritual perspective, all of us are here to outgrow limitation. That's spiritually why it's a commonality that we all share, is to rise above limitation, to outgrow it. I think that's part of graduating from this planet, and that's something that our spirit guides, our predecessors, those who have walked this plane of existence before us, have done through their own means and their own freedom and their own situation. And I'm grateful that I do my best to work with my guides, and I try to stay open to them, and I've gotten some good insights from them, a lot of confirmation and comfort. And if you take the time to listen to your guides, follow the chills. This is a very awesome thing. It's a very empowering, encouraging thing. But anyway, I don't want to stray too far off. I feel like I think like I said, this episode for me was just kind of talking about just like my fitness journey and why I strive to I want to be at a place where I'm still doing things. I'm physically active, and maybe I won't be too crazy active as I am like around where I'm at this point in my life, in my later years when I'm 60 or 70. But I damn well want to be able to move and be self-reliant, and not have to rely on anything. And I have to rely on medicine. I have to rely on other people. I can tend to myself. I can take care of myself. But again, people have these concepts like getting old means at some point you have to be taken care of, or you end up in a nursery home. If that's your concept, I strongly encourage you to just rethink that, because that's not how things have to be. It's a reality for many, but but they contribute to that through their own mindset, through their actions, and it's a buildup of things that's led them to that point in life. But you don't have to be there. And that's why I'm taking these proactive steps right now in my fitness journey, so that I can enjoy things with people. I mean, I love to dance. I love to move. I love twirling my rope flow, because to me, movement is meditation for me, and that's a big one. Like from riding my bike to just dancing and all the things. Even why there's some spaces in the communities where they use movement as a way of being able to move through things, like as a form of meditation, as a form of healing. One example is ecstatic dance. And if it's something that's new to you, I invite you to check it out and look into it. Run a Google search or do a YouTube search and look up ecstatic dance. That's just, all this to say, I just want to enjoy my later years. When I start to hit the 40s at some point in the 50s, God willing, and I do my best and am intentional and carry myself consciously and intentionally. I want to be in a place where it's like, where I can say, man, I feel better in my 40s than I did in my 30s. I feel better in my 50s than I did in my 40s. I feel better in my 60s than I did in my 50s. I want to be able to say that. And that's something that I'm going to strive towards. And I invite you to do the same for yourself. You know, growing old doesn't have to be seen as something pessimistic, but rather it's a beautiful stage of life that, you know, if we're fortunate, or if we're, and also in some sense, if we're directed, intentional, we can, we get there at that point during our current lifetime on this planet. So yeah, I hope this has gave you some key points here, and yeah, I mean, if anything resonates, feel free to reach out to me. I got some resources in the show notes here. I got like a little survey. If you have any questions or any inputs you'd like for me to answer, please, I invite you to just check it out and submit something. I always check my inboxes just to make sure any feedback I get from my listeners, and I'll love to be of service and to share more, talk about any particular area. So if you made it this far, this episode, thank you so much for your time and attention. And this has been another episode of Spirit Engineered. I'm your host, Alan Tapeta, signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.